In 2014, a company came out to try to take a different approach on smartphones, essentially trying to provide flagship specs at a reasonable cost. Their motto was never settle, and I feel like they had abandoned that for the last couple of years at least, as the company grew and matured. But I think they found that never settled again, because they have not settled with this OnePlus 12. Let's get into it. So let's talk about the display first. It is a 6.8-inch screen with 4,500 nits of brightness at a 1440p resolution. It's very bright and very visible in outdoor lighting. It's a gorgeous display to look at. It has those curved edges. You may not be a fan of the curved edges. Several brands are going back to a more squared off flat display, but this used to be very popular, and it's still a beautiful way to look at phones. It definitely feels a little bit more immersive, and gestures feel a little bit more natural if you use gestures, because your finger swipes across the edge of that rounded edge of the phone. So you may have preference in that. Either way, even if you don't like the rounded edges, it's not that big of an impact to the overall use of the phone. Of course, we couldn't talk about a OnePlus device without mentioning the alert slider. The alert slider, of course, is there. You know, this has been a staple for OnePlus. It's similar to what iPhones used to offer, but basically it's a little alert slider that allows you to choose between sound or vibrate or silent instead than going through the quick panel to activate that. It's a very handy feature, and I still do not understand why any other brand does not do this. I wish more brands offered this on their phones. It's one of the reasons I really like OnePlus devices. Beyond the alert slider is the powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. This holds no punches as well, because it's the best processor of 2024 for mobile processors on Android. And it holds its weight just like any other phone that is coming out with this processor. There is, I believe, about a 20% improvement from last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Of course, mostly this will help day-to-day in gaming, some of the big known titles like Genshin Impact. Overall, you may not notice that large of a difference. One thing that is surprising, because this processor did focus a lot on AI and machine learning, is we don't notice a lot of use on OnePlus devices with machine learning or AI features. That may change over time. There may be updates that come that actually import or use some of that, but at least with the US market version, there isn't really any AI features in this compared to what some of the other flagship phones are doing. But honestly, the AI features are still somewhat gimmicky. They're fairly new on smartphones, short of, Assistant and Gemini and ChatGPT, etc. Outside of those core solutions for AI, AI is utilized for some camera features, for editing photos, things like that. So you're not really missing out, I feel, if you don't have that on this phone. Beyond that speedy processor is also speedy file transfers, UFS 4.0. Basically what this allows is just incredibly fast file transfers. With my phone a lot, I will utilize a USB-C to SD card reader to transfer photos or videos off of my camera onto my phone, for example. So having that solution is really nice, having the newest UFS version available for even faster file transfers. And lastly, one of the other things about specs that can be discussed that had been missing on OnePlus phones for a while is the introduction of wireless charging. Wireless charging is back, and in a big way, with a 50-watt charging capability if you use their proprietary charger. If not, you can still use standard Qi wireless charging up to 15 watts. So very glad to see this added back in the phone as well. And the 50-watt charging is faster than some wired phones even. There's a lot of wired phones that are maxing out at 30 watts still, and this phone does it at 50 watts, let alone the wired charging at 80 watts. Beyond that, we have great specs for space, starting at 256 gig and 12 gig of RAM, or you bump up to 512 gig of space and 16 gig of RAM, which in my recommendation, that would be where to go, just to eke out a little bit higher performance, be able to keep more apps running in the background, and of course have that space that you need for all those pictures and videos you'll probably be taking. Speaking of pictures and videos, the cameras this year on this guy have definitely improved. The color science with Hasselblad partnership is also greatly improved. So the main lens is a 50 megapixel, the telephoto is a 64 megapixel, and the ultra wide is a 48 megapixel lens. So you're jam-packed with great lenses on this phone. Pictures look amazing on all lenses. And I think that partnership has really paid off this year, as these lenses are similar to what you would see on the OnePlus Open, besides the main shooter being a little bit different as well. But the last two phones that OnePlus has released, we were actually seeing really good quality on pictures taken, and that color science is very natural looking. And this is where Hasselblad comes in with their expertise on color science, with all their years of expertise with cameras they've made. Beyond, of course, the cameras are Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, and IP65 water resistance. And I say water resistance that it doesn't have IP68, unfortunately, still, but it does have a nifty trick with what's called Aqua Touch. Essentially, this is a very nice trick that they added in, that essentially if you are in a rainy situation or you've gotten water on your phone, you know, those pesky situations you always have of being able to navigate your phone when the phone is wet or getting a little sprinkled on in the rain, is not a problem anymore with Aqua Touch. Aqua Touch essentially allows a more specific touch capabilities, just like the phone is when it's dry, to where you rarely have any incorrect touch inputs or false negatives or any extra pickup of touch sensitive situations when the phone is wet. But this phone is way more about what it's capable of instead than just the specs alone. There's even all these other hidden little things that the phone can do, from an IR blaster that you can essentially use to control your TV, or maybe a fan, or maybe an air conditioner even, to this amazing beautiful back that they put on this phone, to just the design overall, to the speakers and the sound quality with the phone, to good microphones even in this phone. There's all these little details, and especially Oxygen OS as being a great version of Android that offers a lot of customized solutions and add-ons that are missing in core Android. To, of course, the most important piece, and that is the price. The price of this phone is $800. Unlike most of the flagships that are releasing right now that are $1,000 to $1,400, this phone is only $800. And the shocking part to that is you can actually get it even lower than $800 by trading in any device or phone you have and getting $100 off instantly. Probably would even get more than that off. If you trade in any of your old phones, you are guaranteed to get $100 off, netting you down to a $700 phone. Yes, that's still expensive for a smartphone, but we're talking smartphones with flagships capabilities are significantly higher than that. Some phones that just released, you're paying $700 more than that for that phone. Yes, it does have some extra capabilities, higher resolution on the cameras and larger telephoto, But are those features really that needed for what you get out of these phones? OnePlus is really doing a lot this year to prove that they are back in the game and are very competitive on what they offer. Not just this phone in general. The OnePlus Open was the arguably best folding phone of 2023. They have this phone now. They have a 12R version of the phone, which is even a more cost-friendly solution. And what do you lose in that? Some lower spec cameras and last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So still flagship specs in that device. So between the specs, the fast charging, the great battery life, with a 5400 milliamp battery, to the implementation of wireless charging being back, to great cameras and good color science, there really isn't much this phone can't do or doesn't have of flagship capabilities that you should really consider this phone over the other flagships that are out, especially because of the cost. I really would expect you not to be able to provide a lot of reasons why $700 more might get you a other flagship phone that may have a couple extra features. But are those features really worth it? Are those features things you use every day? So arguably this would be the phone I think most people should be getting this year. It's very cost effective for a flagship phone. So let me know what you think of this phone, if you've had a chance to experience this phone or use it, or have you already picked this phone up? All things that you may have curious about it, any questions about it, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.